Hi, everyone. It might be morning, afternoon, or late in the evening where you are. No matter where you're joining us from, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Welcome to JFrog's Release Lifecycle Management Masterclass, Trust in Your Software Releases. I'm Brian, Product Marketing Manager at JFrog, and I'll be your host for today's session. In the next hour, we'll cover everything that you need to know about release lifecycle management. It's a key feature in the JFrog platform that accelerates consistent software releases, enabling you to ship software you can manage and trust, all with just one single system of record. We'll now introduce our presenters and go through the agenda. So, as you can see on the screen, you'll learn from our esteemed solution architects, Selva and Anantha. They're both experienced technical practitioners who work with our large enterprise clients every day and have a deep understanding of the inner workings of the software supply chain. We're very excited to have both of them here with us today to share their knowledge and their expertise. Moving to our agenda, here's what we'll cover over the next hour or so. We'll start with an overview of everything that you need to know about release lifecycle management and also evidence collection, which is a new feature in the JFrog platform. We'll then get into a deep dive demo so you can see it all in action and see how it all works. We'll then follow that up with Q&A, where Selva and Anantha will be joined by our product managers, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. At any point in the presentation, as questions come up, please drop your question into the Q&A queue, as you can see on your screen. We'll get to as many questions as we can in the time that we have. That's enough from me for now, so now we'll just go ahead and get started. To introduce release lifecycle management and evidence collection, I'll now pass it over to Selva.
Thank you, Brian. So let's get started. So this release lifecycle management and evidence collection, as Brian pointed out, is a new addition to the JFrog platform. And let's look at the JFrog platform itself to get an idea. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the platform. I assume that some of you have already used the platform. So as you can see on the screen, JFrog Artifactory is the binary repository manager that is the cornerstone of our platform. It stores artifacts that you generate in your enterprise and also the third-party binaries that you source from public repositories such as Maven Central, Docker Hub, and so on. In addition to the artifact management product, Artifactory, there is a set of products that help you to secure your third-party binaries and also your first-party code. Those includes things like JFrog Curation, that looks into the binaries that you source from public repositories to ensure that you are sourcing only approved or the binaries that meet your requirements. You also have JFrog X-Ray, which is a software composition analysis product that natively integrates with Artifactory, which means you are always interacting with Artifactory. And behind the scenes, Artifactory will check with the X-Ray to ensure that the third-party binaries are free from the vulnerabilities that you have configured in your policies. In addition to that, the advanced security, which looks at the first-party code, the code that you write in your enterprise to ensure that these first-party codes do not inherit all the vulnerabilities that the third-party binaries bring into your enterprise. And if they do, what are the various mitigation options that you have so that you can minimize the security risk associated with the software releases. And also, when you run your application in production, JFrog will continue to monitor using JFrog Runtime for Kubernetes-based managed clusters and other technologies such as OpenShift, so that you can have end-to-end secure software delivery starting from code to cloud. And of course, there are other products that make up the platform, including distribution, connect, and of course, the most recent ML for machine learning models and so on, that we can discuss in a separate webinar. Or if you have interest, please reach out to us or to your account manager. With that, I'm going to go into the release lifecycle management. So if you look at in the last 20 to 30 years, we have spent a lot of times automating a lot of processes within the software development lifecycle, because the technology is evolving fast, the business needs have been increasing, and we want to automate. And we achieved quite a bit of progress in automating various things that includes a build process, for example, or the complete CI process using tools such as Jenkins, GitHub Actions, Bamboo, and so on. Or it could be, automated or continuous deployment of the applications in production, or during the development phase, it could be an automated testing or provisioning the cloud resources using tools like Terraform and so on. So we have been successfully creating all this automation. These automations come from different teams within the enterprise, and they started using different technologies and tools. So you have different tools for, let's say, your build process that is different from your automated testing and so on. With this, we were able to achieve the speed that we wanted. But when we tried to interconnect all these islands of automation, then we ran into problems. So we have to write a lot of custom code to integrate all of them. Even with this, only a few enterprises were able to achieve the level of integration that they wanted to. And if you look at that, this approach provides the delivery speed, but then it also brought in a lot of issues that we have today. That includes tools fragmentation, because different teams automated using different technologies and tools. We don't have a consistent tool set within an enterprise. If you look at a large enterprise, we have plenty of tools, and each team followed different processes as well. So we don't have a consistent process. And with both the tools fragmentation and inconsistent process, it's very hard for us to integrate all of them to have visibility or trust in our software development lifecycle. So essentially, we were able to achieve the speed, but if you want to look at the visibility of, knowing if those software development lifecycle processes were followed, if we collected any evidence to support the process or the outcome of the process or the decision that we did based on the process and so on, we don't have that kind of visibility today. Also, without a visibility into the process itself, we don't have that trust. And these are the problems that we are trying to address with the release lifecycle management. Before we go into the release lifecycle management objectives, I just want to highlight what you have today. In the JFrog platform today, if you look at it, we have the Artifactory that stores not only the binary, but the associated metadata with it. So Artifactory is a system of record today, and you can use the same Artifactory for storing other things that are required for the release lifecycle management. Those other things include the evidences. Evidences are nothing but attestations. The evidences to ensure that the processes are followed and we have captured the outcome and stored along with the artifacts. So at any given time, if you want to look at something, then we can get to see those evidences. Now, the evidences follow the life cycle of the artifact to which they are attached. That makes it one central place to look at the artifacts and the evidences together, making Artifactory a system of record. With this approach, you are making use of the existing investment that you have already made with Artifactory. You may be, with the build info that you're attaching today, you're able to create SBOM. SBOM is a form of evidence for us. So it is an internal evidence that I will discuss in future slides. For now, let's look at the goals that we are trying to address. One, we want to create a release bundle, an immutable release bundle at the beginning of the build process itself, and take that release bundle throughout the stages of the software development lifecycle. And we want to sign with the key so that it is immutable. And as they go through the various stages of the SDLC, we want to have visibility to them so that we know at any given point the processes that they followed and the outcome of the processes attached to those artifacts or the release bundle. And at any given point, we will be able to make sure that the processes are followed, essentially providing a governance for the lifecycle. And in the end, we will end up with a trusted system of record. So these are the four major goals that we are addressing with the release lifecycle management. To get into the release lifecycle management, before we go into the demo, there are a few other things that I would like to cover so that my partner Ananta can show you those in action. First, let's start on the right side, the environments. Environments are basically the various environments you have in the SDLC phase. Things like QA environment, which is a lower environment, and then move on to higher environments such as pre-prod, staging, and production, and so on. You define the number of environments that aligns with your process. The second thing is the release bundle. Release bundle is a logical collection of artifacts that you plan to release together. So for example, if you create an application, there may be a Docker image for the application. There may be another associated Docker image. Let's say if it is a sidecar pattern, you may have another Docker image. You may have, let's say, a Terraform script to provision the cloud resources in which these Docker images will run. You may have installation instruction in let's say, in PDF format, or an installation video in MP4 format. All these artifacts are stored in different technology type repositories. Docker images in a Docker repository, or the Terraform scripts in a Terraform repository, the MP4 and the PDF files in a generic repository, and so on. So when you create a release bundle, you create with all these components that make up the release bundle at the beginning of the build process itself. Now, as you take the release bundle and move them through the various environments, as you go up in the environments chain, you want to make sure that you follow the different processes that are outlined for each of those environments. And to show that you have followed, you want to attach evidences. These evidences are, as I mentioned, are attestations. It could be as simple as a JSON file or other formats that we will be adding in the future. So there are two types of evidences that you would collect. These evidences, as they go through the stages, they will go through the quality checks. These quality checks are either internal or the external. So based on that, your evidences also will be coming from the systems. For example, in the JFrog platform, you have, when you attach the build info, you have an internal evidence collected as part of the build process. When you move from, let's say, in the QA stage, when you go through the functional testing, or you go through a scan, you may be attaching results from, let's say, from sonar results, or maybe from JMeter, or from X-ray. So these are the various evidences that you attach. And as you can see, JFrog X-ray is an internal evidence, whereas things from Sonar Cube or from your JMeter, these are external evidences. So you will attach these evidences in various stages of the SDLC to the artifact. And along the way, when you move from this artifact and evidences from one stage or one environment to the next higher environment, you go through a process known as promotion. This is where the quality check happens. And then finally, when the artifact reaches the production maturity level, basically followed all the processes of the SDLC and ready to be deployed in production, you go through the distribution process in which you distribute the binary from a central location where you have created them to various locations where they are going to run. So for example, you may be creating these binaries and going through the phases. Let's say in your cluster in San Francisco, you may be trying to deploy it in Ireland, Frankfurt, or Mumbai, or a combination of those geographical locations and the clusters in them. Then you want to distribute these binaries closer to those clusters so that when you deploy them, they can pull from the nearest point of presence versus coming all the way to the San Francisco cluster. So that is the process of promotion. That also allows you to decide who gets what type of binaries. You may not be running all binaries in all locations. If you're distributing to external customers, for example, you may be restricting what binaries each customer pays for and gets access to. So that is the distribution process. Now, if I go back to the SDLC phases and the actions, and I'll show you the various actions and what type of questions we can answer with that. So in a typical, this is a simplified version of the SDLC. In a typical SDLC, you have a code, build, promote, and deploy. And then you will be using various tools. For example, for code changes, you may be using an IDE. And for distribution and deployment, you may be using a CD like Argo CD. The IDEs could be some of the popular IDEs that the developers use. For pull requests, you may be using GitHub pull request or GitLab and so on. Now, along the way, by looking at all these tools and the evidences that you collect, you will be able to answer business questions such as whether there was a code review conducted in the pull request stage. or was the build fully automated? So did they run in an isolated environment? Or when somebody is approving a release to production, basically a distribution process, was the release properly approved by the release manager, and so on? All these questions you will be able to answer because you have collected the evidences and you have attached those evidences to artifacts. Now, all of the entire release lifecycle management process is supported by the JFrog platform. So you have a single platform and a single system of record within Artifactory. Now, in terms of the evidences that you would be collecting in these SDLC phases, as you can see, underneath the code change, you will be collecting signatures. These are the hash or the SHA-256 checksum for these binaries. You may be following let's say, agile development process using Atlassian Jira systems. So you may be following a Jira ticketing system for your change request and so on. And then you can collect the build environments to ensure that it ran in an isolated environment with the appropriate environment set. And of course, as you go through your functional testing or performance testing and so on, you would be collecting the test results. And finally, you'll be collecting approvals as you go through the distribution process also. And all these are evidences that can be in various formats. Today, we support JSON format as we add additional formats. And these files can be easily attached. If it is an internal evidence, we will do it automatically, so you won't even have to do any additional work. Whereas for external evidence, depending on the system, you would be collecting those evidences, and then we have JFrog REST API and JFrog CLI to attach these evidences to the Artifactory and the JFrog platform. Now, if you look at graphically, I have an image on the right part of the screen. So it shows 3 swim lanes. If you look at the leftmost swim lane, we have the artifacts and the evidences attached to that. So call moderation is a Docker image that was created, and it has the signature attached to it as an evidence. And then there is also a Green Pizza app that has an evidence, also a signature. And you also have a README file. So there are 3 artifacts that make up this release bundle. And then in the next swim lane, the center one, you would see the aggregation of those. So we attached additional evidences as they went through the various test phases. So we attached a change log, sonar results, build signature, and so on. And finally, the aggregation that shows everything, including SBOM, such as in this case, Cyclone DX, VEX format, SBOM, the promotion information as to who promoted it and what was the criteria, the quality checks, and also SBOM in Cyclone DX itself. So these are the evidences that are attached to the artifacts, the build, and also the release bundles, as you can see in those 3 swim lanes. Now, moving on to this, now you have a collection of evidences that are attached to these artifacts. And with this, now you can answer some of the business questions to ensure that you are able to follow the governance and audit capabilities. That includes things like whether the entire software development lifecycle was followed, did it meet the quality standards, did we have a secure development process and supply chain, and so on. All these questions you can answer, and of course, you can view all the results on the UI, and you can also use JFrog CLI and REST API to attach evidences. With that, we are going to go into a demo instance. Before I get into the demo instance, I want to give you a background of how the demo instance is configured. You can see here on my screen, there are 3 environments: dev, QA, and prod. And in the dev, it is in San Francisco. And then to the far right, you can also see 2 distributions locations. One is in Tokyo, the other one in New York. And that's where we are running the binaries that were created and has gone through the SDLC phase in San Francisco. When we promote from dev to next higher environments such as QA, we are going through an evidence collection. There are 2 types of policies. One is an internal policy that is X-ray based, the other one is an external policy, and we collect those two evidences. Based on those two evidences, we make a determination to promote this release bundle from dev to QA. As you can see, this release bundle has three artifacts coming from three different repositories, a Docker, Maven, and a generic repository. And also similarly, when it goes from QA to prod, there is, in this case, we are using X-ray again. There may be a different external policy based on the different policies configured for each environment. And finally, when we are ready to distribute, we also go through another set of gates, and then we will distribute these binaries. With this, I'm going to hand it over to my partner, Ananta, who will show you the demo and the working of this release lifecycle management.
Okay, thank you, Selva. Just want to make sure that everybody can see my screen. So let's quickly jump on to show my environment right now. As Selva mentioned, there are core components within the release lifecycle management. One of the thing he mentioned about the environments like dev, QA, prod, and installer, whatever the different environments your application needs to go through that, you define in the platform, either through CLI or UI or REST APIs. Those are like the preliminary steps to get this release lifecycle management to going. So once you set up all your environments, the next set of things what he showed is like the repositories, such as like in a package defined repositories like in a Docker, Maven, generic, things like that. So those things get attached to those specific environments. So when he was showing like the object is going from like in a dev environment to QA environment to your prod environment and all the way to those distribution edge nodes. So those components like the repositories are key things. We already created those local repositories where your application is going to get deployed. And then if you do have any remote packages that need to be extracted from Docker Hub or Maven Central, those Docker remote repositories are already defined there as well. So with that, I'm going to shift my page to GitHub actually. So this is where my source code management is existing. And we have an repository under JFrog. So this is like an evidence example. Where you can go ahead and take a look at like and how the whole thing has been deployed. So if you go inside my GitHub Actions, again, any kind of SCM tool is fully supported with the JFrog platform. If you are bringing anything like Jenkins or GitHub Actions, so yeah, everything is supported. So the thing which I'm going to showcase here is one of the actions which already completed its run for time's sake. So if you look at here, build and deploy with evidence, there are three different jobs inside. The first and foremost thing, everybody understands that I need an application. These are my source code. Get this compiled, build it, and then push it into Artifactory. I do have some remote packages that I need to extract from Artifactory and then complete this step. So that kind of like goes in the job number one. And the second is like going through the gates, like promote to QA and then test it and making sure the evidences are getting attached. The final thing is like, hey, do I have every evidence that I wanted to capture it? If I captured it, validate that against a policy agent, making sure that all my evidences are meeting my criteria. And then once everything is ready, then kind of like bring it to production and send it to anywhere I wanted to send it. So those are like three different jobs we have defined. So let's go back to the coding side. I'm going to pull that. Okay, so if you look at here, this is my first job that we were showing, the Docker build with evidence. So the first and foremost thing is like you need a JFrog CLI installed in your workstation. So basically you get that, and then you kind of like use your artifact URL, and then your access token gets generated from the UI or CLI, and then gets that be part of this one. And then now you are getting into like building your Docker image. So the first and foremost thing you need to do is like you have your repository for your Docker you already created inside the Artifactory, and then you reference that saying that, hey, that's my user, that's my access token, and this is my Artifactory URL. So go ahead and get that configuration set up, and then now you are building the Docker image. So when you're building the Docker image, you're using the native command like in a Docker build, and then you're passing the different arguments to get that Docker up and running actually. So now you can see here, I created my, I'm using my JFrog CLI with RT stands for like an Artifactory. And then I'm creating this build create. And then this is where I'm kind of using my local repository. So you can see here, example project, Docker dev. And that's my image file. And then I'm passing the different metadata to get this completed actually. So this is as far this much, I'm pretty much sure that everybody gets understand saying that, okay, this is how you build your Docker image and then gets it ready to be deployed. And now things about like the evidences. When we talk about evidences, there are different subjects you can attach the evidences, as Selva mentioned. It could be an artifact, it could be in build, it could be in package, or it could be in a release bundles. So in this case, it is a package. So this is where we are kind of like firing our JFrog CLI, which is like JFrog EVD. EVD stands for evidence. And then we are saying that, hey, you know what, go ahead and fire this one. You're going to create and passing all these parameters actually. So when we pass these parameters, we need to make sure that what's the predicate here. So if we take like an evidence, it's basically a JSON object. We are kind of following all the internal attestation framework. So the innermost, there are different layers inside. The innermost layer is the predicate. And then you can see here that I'm building my JSON object here. I'm passing my GitHub actor, and then I'm passing the date. What date I'm kind of like executing this particular job, and then I'm sending it to my sign.json. So if you see here, I'm passing into sign.json. So that's the one I'm attaching as a predicate here. And then I'm saying that, hey, this is the predicate type. So when I'm saying that this is the signature, I'm kind of like attaching it into this particular package type of Docker. Okay. So now I created, I'm kind of like calling it with an echo statement saying that evidence is attached, so on, so on, everything is complete. As we discussed, it could be a package, the subject could be in a plain artifact. So now I'm picking up a README file, which I'm going to upload into Artifact. So same thing, like now I'm uploading this through my JFrog CLI command, and this is my README file, and this is the path I'm going to upload it to. So example project generic dev is a repository inside Artifactory where I'm kind of like firing that upload to happen. When I'm uploading that, I wanted to make sure my evidence goes along with that. So I create this again. Now you can see that the parameters are different. I'm passing that, hey, this is my subject repo path, and this is my the entire information about that one goes there. Again, evidence can be tampered as well. So we need to make sure that we are passing those keys along with that one. Public keys can be exported into the Artifactory platform, and then you can, JFrog platform, and then you can store it in public key, and then private key can be stored inside your build process as a secret, and then pass that here. And whatever the public key's name, you basically store as an alias here, and then pass that here. And again, predicate is the innermost layer in the evidence file. So that predicate is basically the sign.json, which I just built it one level up, and then I'm passing that. And then again, the predicate type is like this is a signature as well. So these two signatures will get attached to those, one for the Docker hub, or Docker image, and second for the README file. I believe like everybody can easily follow this one. So once these evidences are collected and attached and everything, now I'm kind of sending other information into JFrog platform, such as like in the Git information. So those are all the steps like collecting information from Git, because these informations will make sure that our systems are following all those things from the building building environment itself. Like any kind of like the environment variables which are part of this build process, I'm collecting everything, and then I'm publishing all my build public information into Artifactory. So these individual CLI commands should make sure that my build information have everything about Git, everything about the environment variables, all the things about like what got built inside, and what are the different artifacts got published into the platform. Okay, so now we already signed the two different evidences, one for the Docker which is a package, and one for the README file, which is basically an artifact. So now we are trying to sign a build now. So now here I am preparing my predicate here. So I'm passing the actor, which is the GitHub actor, in this case, like GitHub, and the date to which the build is happening. And then I'm publishing inside my sign.json. So once the sign.json is completed, then I'm passing that as a predicate here. And then now you can see here that the predicate type is a build signature. The past two ones, you could have seen that the URL was like just a signature. Now it's a build signature is getting generated. And that gets kind of like attached to that. And then the evidence attached. So that's an echo statement here. So now, once you have the build, there are two different ways you can take it. Now you got the build inside your JFrog platform. You can leave it here, go to the UI, and then create a release bundle from there, and then migrate to different gates. There are a lot of different patterns there. Either you can kind of go from one environment to other environment through UI, and then deploy into your for offsites, or you can just kind of like use that fully automated way, like creating the release bundle from the CI perspective, and then continue to add more evidences and validate those evidences, make those quality kits. So there are three different reference patterns we published in the portal as well. We'll show that in a minute. So now let's say that this is like a fully automated process, because we want to make sure that from source code to all the way to that distributed to those edge nodes through like an entire CI workflow. So this is where we are showing. So now your build is already inside your JFrog platform. Now we are creating the release bundle. So when we are creating the release bundle, you can see here I am passing those different parameters like what is the build number, what is the signing key. So all those parameters goes inside, and the release bundle gets created here in this particular step. So that will make sure that that will complete the job number one that we were discussing. And now we are moving into that second job, which is like a promoted event test. So when we go again here, when we are saying that, okay, this is like a JFrog release bundle promotion, now we are passing like which environment we need to get this promoted. So when a release bundle get created, it stands as like in a new, and then it sits in there, and then it is going to ask like, hey, you do have dev, QA, prod, and staging, which environment you want me to move. So you basically pass that environment, which one you wanted to move it, and then you pass the signing key saying that this is the signing key that we signed with the release bundle. So go ahead and use the same thing. So now this particular step is going to make the contents move from your bundle from your dev to QA at this time. There are options you can pass it, whether you wanted to copy the artifacts or you want to move the artifacts. Those things can be enabled as well. So now you are creating the evidence on the release bundle. So far we haven't created. So now at this step, we are creating the release bundles evidence. So you can see from here, I'm making sure my predicate is having like an actor, the date, and the CI process, and other things part of it, and then making sure that my release bundle evidence predicate is created. So that's basically the test evidence.json. And then once I have that one, you can see here like a predicate type is like testing results, because these are all the results I'm capturing and creating this bundle. So I call this one and making sure that the evidence is attached to the release bundle. So we created both the package, artifact, build, and then release bundle. Those are the four different subject types where you can attach the evidences. So we attached everything. Now you can see that I'm ready to go and then start promoting to prod. So probably at this point, you might have other external systems like SonarQube, or maybe like an TestNG, or maybe the other systems might have pulled the artifact pulled that release bundle from those environments and start testing, and they might have evidences captured on the external testing systems. There, where you once they complete the systems, they could be having a different workflow to inject that evidences back into these release bundles, saying that, you know what, these are all the evidences we ran through the test, and just successful or not successful, capture every evidence, every detail about that one, and then create the JSON, attach that as a predicate type of like an external, and then push it inside those release bundle. And then Now there could be a question like, okay, I do have artifacts, I do have the builds, I do have like release bundles. Where should I have? At what point, like, I should kind of like attach my evidence? Should I go back to the artifacts or should I go back to the release bundles? The general practice is like, once your release bundle is created, any kind of like an external evidences you are feeding back into the system, it should be attached directly back to the release bundles only, not to the original artifacts or the builds and everything. Before release bundle gets created, yes, definitely you should be able to do it for your build or for your artifacts, or maybe like in anything you want to attach it directly to those individual ones. But once the release bundle is created, the best practice to attach to that release bundles directly. So once you have your release bundle is ready to be kind of like validated and promoted to QA. So now you can see here, I'm using Open Policy Agent here as kind of like validating all my evidences. And then I'm using the GraphQL to go through that objects and making sure that, okay, I'm having all those things. So the samples are here. So if you go here, policy record. So now you can see here, I'm expecting in my workflow, there are 3 different evidences, Cyclone VX, testing results, and promotions. I go through that and making sure that everything is found. If I do find everything attached to those release bundle, then I'm thinking that, okay, this particular process completes all its validations and then ready to go to production. So I'm making this one as like an approved and send it to the production. So now let's go back there. So at this point, I'm checking like, hey, go through this entire thing, and then all my evidences were captured, and everything is captured, and then it came back the result as true. So I'm checking here, like, if the result is true, now I'm ready to send my promoted it to the production. So you can see here, now I'm passing the value as like in a production as the destination environment, sending this release bundle over there. So now successfully productive. If one of my evidence is missing, say, let's say that my Cyclone DX didn't come back successfully, there are some extra violations, or maybe like an external Sonar Cube results came back as a failure, that they don't want to kind of like approve this particular thing go to production. So that might turn it into like an environment result is a false. Then it says like, you know what, it is a failed promotion policy check, and then the bundle stops there in a QA itself. So now in case like if you do have an Jira story open, it needs to go all the way back to that source code management, create a new build, and bring back a new version of it, and then create a different release bundle from that point onwards. Then it goes through that. Okay, so now I'm going to switch my gears to the UI. And if you go to the application side, if we go to the builds, you can see here, this is the build. We got it from GitHub Actions, and it is sitting here. So either you can create the release bundle from the CI perspective and then continue to push it, or you can go ahead and fire the release bundle from here itself. So let's say that I'm going to call this one as like 500 as the release bundle version. I'm attaching the key, and then I'm firing this one. So now it's going to tell me that, hey, these are all the contents part of that build process. Is that the one you are looking for? Now I'm going to say that yes, go ahead and create it. The moment I said it's create, you can see that my screen switched from builds into the release lifecycle. Now you can see that release bundles happening across your organization for the last 30 days. There are 27 bundles are already created, and then 14 of them promoted, and then 1 got distributed. These are all the different release bundles. These are all the applications on your end. And then if I open it up, and then it's going to pull me this Kanban board with the different lanes. So these are like in a different environments. We talked about dev, QA, and prod, and everything. And you can see from here, let me maximize it. So from here, you can see here, there are different builds stopped at different environments, never got promoted, because there are so many things happened with that. And the thing which we are going to open it up is the 38th build, which is the one we were kind of like watching it. And you can go to the content, and then you can see from here there are 3 different packages for Docker type and 1 for the generic one. And if you go back to this release here, and then this will tell me like what happened to this particular particular release bundle all along the path. So you can see here it was the created, and when it got created, it provides that auditability saying that who created this one, what timestamp they created, and every bit about like where that artifact metadata is stored, are there any kind of like dependencies or any other environment details. All those informations are available here for you to track it. And once that gets tracked, there are, as Salva mentioned, like there are internal JFrog managed evidences get created, like Cyclone TX SBOM and Vex SBOM, because X-ray has been turned on for this particular release bundle. Immediately it get attached. So if you open it up, it will tell you like exactly what it got found and what are all the different vulnerabilities in this particular one. You can see from here who created it, what timestamp it got created as well. And you can see from here if it gets promoted to QA. There are different ways you can promote it, like the CI way, you can go ahead and promote it. At the same time, if you wanted to promote it from here, let me showcase here. All I just need to do is like go ahead and say promote, and it will ask you like what type of promotion you want. You wanted to copy that, or you wanted to move the artifacts and the environment you wanted to copy it. Let's say that I wanted to go to prod, so you kind of like go ahead and say find prod, and then then the next step is going to ask like in the target repositories. So when you move from like dev to QA, it's going to ask like, hey, I'm seeing these three number of local repositories for that specific package types. Go ahead and tell me like which repositories you wanted to promote it, and then same case with the generic as well. So once you fire the promote, then it will take that contents, either copy or promote it to that particular environment. So all along the line, you can see here that approval is attached, promoted to POQ prod. So all those things what we fired from the CI process, you can see that all the evidences are getting captured here. So once you have your thing deployed into prod, now it's time to kind of distribute to those far off edge nodes. The things we talked about, like in Sydney and Tokyo, you can go ahead and say that, hey, you know what, I'm ready to promote to the distributed edge nodes. So then it's going to ask you like, okay, may I move my screen here? It's going to ask me like, hey, you know what, I'm seeing these different locations of edge nodes, like an evidence edge to evidence resources. Do you want me to fire it to that? Then once you select those things, and then it's going to additional settings, it's going to ask like, hey, your artifact have this ABC setup. Should I kind of like dump it in a similar setup there, or you wanted to have a different setup? So you can configure different paths for different edge nodes, or you can just by default you can say that, hey, all those targets, I just need to dump it as is. So that will come back and say that, you know what, my distribution to those far off edge nodes successfully deployed or failure. If the signatures were not matched over there, then it's going to say that, you know what, I failed during the release bundle signature. Remember, like one of the things, the key thing is we need to make sure that the evidences are not tampered. Internally, we verify that if you're attaching any kind of release bundle signature with a key, we need to make sure that those keys are installed in the far off locations as well. So that's the thing, it failed. And I wanted to make sure that those failures are also, if your the end state repositories are not established in the edge nodes, it's going to come back and say that, hey, I'm trying to deploy it, but I don't see that I'm failing it right now. So once you have these corrections, then you can see here that in the far off locations, in the Sydney or Tokyo, wherever your edge node is deployed, you can see from here that I just logged into my edge node in a different location, and you can see here, if you go to the distribution, if you go to the release bundles, this is the received, because this, as per this particular edge node, that particular bundle got received here. So you can see that's the same version. If I wanted to see all the files, all the Docker images, the manifest files, and the different layers, as well as that particular README file, everything got dumped into that particular edge node here. Okay. And with that kind of like, I'm wrapping up my conversation here. One thing I just wanted to quickly showcase you, if I go back to this example bundle, and then if I go here and then find my 38, and evidence graph, you can see from the color code, evidence files are in the blue, and then the packages. So in this case, like this is a package, And you can see here there is a signature attached. I can go to the README file, and then there is a signature attached. This is the build one, and the build signature is attached for that one. And this is the final release bundle. You can see here. Let me maximize. Cyclone DX, different levels and promotions, the approvals, the testing results, and all those different evidences are attached all along the journey. In case, like, and if you wanted to open it up, any of those different things, like, I can directly go here, and this is the predicate JSON that we attached when we were doing that, saying that, okay, so-and-so actor, so-and-so date, this got attached part of that particular subject, in this case, which is the README file. So with that, I'm giving my control back to Brian.
Thanks, Anantha. Really exciting demo. Great stuff. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen. So now we'll get started with Q&A. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please drop your questions in, and we'll do our best to answer it in the time that we have. In the meantime, if you'd like to tour our platform or book a demo to learn more, feel free to scan the QR codes that you see on your screen, and we'll leave this up as we go through the Q&A. So now we'll get to our questions. The first question we have is, we already use the build promotion APIs. What's the easiest way to transition to the release lifecycle management approach?
Yeah, I'll take this question. Currently, if you look at the build promotion that we have as a best practice in the last few years, this is looking at an artifact, one artifact that goes from one stage to another. This doesn't have any evidences attached to it. On the other hand, our recommendation is to start using the release bundle from the moment an artifact is produced by your continuous integration or platforms such as Jenkins, and start adding evidences as you go through the various stages of your SDLC. So we have a new set of APIs for the build promotion, and you also have support for using JFrog CLI. So with JFrog REST API and JFrog CLI, you would be able to automate the promotion process within the release lifecycle management.
Awesome. Thanks, Selva. So it looks like the next question we have here is, what are the most commonly used evidence types today?
So the two types of evidences at a broad level are the internal and external evidences. The internal evidences are collected by the JFrog platform and automatically attached. So those are things such as your SBOM, your build info, your environment info, your X-ray scan results, and so on. These are automatically attached. Outside of this, the external evidences, there are plenty of them depending on the use cases. Some of the popular ones that I shared during my presentation include things like JMeter evidences, or code review evidences, approval processes, and so on. And of course, it really varies from customer to customer. I would say whatever calls your process calls is what you would be attaching. And if you need any assistance in attaching any of the evidences, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to walk you through the steps.
Great, thanks. So just looking at the chat, there's also a question from Andreas, it looks like, and the question is the only way to add evidences through the JFrog CLI?
Yeah, I just answered that, Brian. So Andreas, you can use REST APIs as well. I posted a link over there.
Awesome, thank you.
I think one more question there from Christian. Can we automate the storing of Jira ticket content as evidence? So, Christian, you can define the payload. The predicate payload could be your Jira ticket number or maybe some other information from that particular Jira ticket. And you might be able to set up the policy agents, and then you can check for like exactly what Jira ticket this content is. Say, for example, you have a Jira 1234 is expected to complete this promotion, and you might be able to get that Jira ticket evidence attached part of it, and then when you are validating it, you check for that exactly the same content, like is that 1234 is part of it. If it's not part of it, then you can go ahead and maybe like decline that particular promotion.
Great. So just looking at the Q&A, it looks like there's another question, which is, RLM is it a product that needs to be purchased separately, or does RLM, release lifecycle management, come with Artifactory?
So this is really a commercial question. If you are an existing customer, Pradeep, let us know. Can you message us the where you are calling from, or we can get it, and then we will have our account manager reach out to you.
Great.
Brian, do we have his Pradeep's customer contact details?
Yeah, I believe we'll be able to follow up offline. We'll make sure
Okay.
that.
All right, thanks.
Awesome. Looks like we have one more question in Q&A, which is, do the distributed artifacts have to have the same paths as a source environment? For instance, if we don't want to have dev in the path shown on the distribution edge.
They don't, Socrates, they don't have to have the same. So it follows the convention. So if you do have it, it will directly use it. If you don't have the exact one, then you need to manually configure. So it's convention over configuration concept.
Great. Thanks. So it looks like there's no more questions. So we'll now just move on to a few notes and takeaways on how you can get started today using release lifecycle management and evidence collection. So here's just a few notes. Release lifecycle management is available to all JFrog users starting from Pro. Evidence collection is available for JFrog Enterprise Plus users. And we also have more technical documentation and information available at our help center and our website and our JFrog blogs as well. And you have the you'll get a copy of this presentation after this webinar, so you'll be able to have these links handy for you. So yeah, thank you again very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. As I mentioned, you'll receive a follow-up email from us, which contains a slide deck as well as a masterclass recording, so you can have it and share it with your colleagues as well. Have a great rest of your day and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.